Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I've got Green Bean and Matt O'Leary. Green Bean, how you doing tonight?
I'm so happy. We got the best news ever today. I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. It's going to be the best.
Matt, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I like that we know. Like, there's no more where are we going to pick, what's going to happen with the coach, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot coming into place this week, and I'm just excited to vent it out and discuss with my fellow Jets fans.
I love it. Guys, if you want to get your shot to win a shirt, a Just End the Suffering shirt, or one of the cool new shirts I actually just added to the Jets Talk store, I got some division rival hate going on right now, so if you want to check that out, you go over to jetstalk.com to see what I'm looking at. But if you guys want your shot to win a free shirt, I'm going to give away one at the end of the show. All you have to do is answer our question of the day. Should Sam be our starting quarterback next year? It's linked in the description down below, as well as pinned. Or actually, it's not pinned in the live chat. I got to pin it in the live chat. I haven't done that yet. So if you want to check it out, all you have to do is vote there, and we will raffle one off at the end of this show. But we got a lot of stuff to get into. We can talk about the Jets' second consecutive win. We finally get that monkey off our back. We beat the Browns and Baker Mayfield. And then we're locked into number 2 now. How do we feel about that? What are our quarterback options? We have so much to talk about. Guys, if you're not already subbed up to Matt and Green Bean, their links are in the description down below as well. But let's jump right into it. Matt, I want to get your thoughts on the Browns or the Jets' victory over the Browns.
Well, the Browns stink, apparently. When all their receivers are out on COVID, they're not a very, very good football team. I got to give credit to the Jets defense, man. They played a hell of a game. They got a ton of pressure on Baker. Baker didn't look good. I didn't really think either quarterback looked good. I think we'll get more into that later. But overall, it was about what I expected in terms from a team having that many guys out with COVID. It was a sloppy kind of a game, and the Jets took advantage of it. And does that mean, or does that change anything for what I think the plan should be? No, I think you guys kind of feel the same way on that. But my biggest takeaway was, okay, this Cleveland team is just really depleted, and the Jets defense came to play. And I'm really excited about the defensive line. Made a video about it today, talking about how guys like Quinn Williams, I know he didn't play, but John Franklin Myers and Folu Fadakasi specifically too, have just been absolutely stellar. So to me, defense looks good. Excited about that. And we'll see what happens in the offseason, I guess, with the offense.
Green Bean, how are you feeling about the victory over the Browns?
All right, a couple of things. First and most importantly, I think we really do have to consider keeping Adam Gase, because clearly he just needed some time to get this going. And you can see how dominant they look once Adam Gase gets going. You see the play, what was it, Crowder to Berrios? I didn't even know what was happening. I didn't know what year it was, who our coach was. I didn't know what was happening. I was like, what are we watching here? Berrios in the backfield. So it was fun. I mean, we were still hoping that we were going to be able to lose and the Jags win, and we're watching the Jags score just get worse. And it was right around halfway through that game where I had a very real epiphany type shift, where I was like, you know what? It's over. The Trevor Lawrence thing is over, and fuck the Browns. Like, I hate the Cleveland Browns. There's our division, the Miami Dolphins, Patriots, Bills, and for me, it's the Browns. I have a long story. It'll be in my podcast this week. But so it was like really nice. Like, if this is the way it's going to go, if we're not going to get Trevor Lawrence, the dream is dead. Let's knock these guys out of the playoffs. Let's make it really hard for them to go in. And the last thing I'll say is, how wonderful was it that they needed about, 6 inches or whatever it was for that first down. They give it to Baker, and Baker fumbles it. Nobody else's fault. No, it wasn't, nobody dropped it. No, nothing. He ran in and he fumbled it. And I just smiled. I did. Fuck that guy. Like, that's how I feel. And I said, if this is going to be the way it goes, good. Let's beat the Cleveland Browns. So that's what I'm rocking on today.
You touched on that last point with the fumble of Baker. I didn't realize that you can't fumble the ball. And, like, I understand you can't fumble the ball and, like, advance the ball forward. But, like, the way it happened, Baker was hit, and I don't know who it was, like grabbed the ball from behind Baker. So it was more of a lateral than anything else. And it was still like not deemed like a first down because he should have been able to, I would have thought he should have been able to go forward since the ball went backwards initially, not forwards initially. Did you guys like happen to catch that at all? Or like, am I just totally off base?
I didn't pick up on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because Hunt grabbed, I think it was Kareem Hunt, right? He grabbed it and then he got the first. He would have gotten the first. And I was like, oh, good, he got the first. We're still going to lose. Like, you know what I mean? I was like having an emotional roller coaster. I'm like, good, fuck them. Oh, yeah, we're still going to lose. It was like very hard to deal with these emotions. So, but yeah, I mean, I forgot all about that. No, the thing is that when these rules are made, it's always because some shenanigans take place, right? So I don't remember the exact play or anything, but it's within the last 2 minutes. Like I think it is, like you can't fumble the ball and advance it unless it's that player. If it's fumbled and picked up by another offensive player, it's a dead ball where they pick it up. You can't pick it up and advance it because I think people like rolled it or some crazy shit happened. They said, no way, we're not going to do this anymore.
But that's one of those things happened. Like it's, but is it considered a fumble or like almost a lateral like that? Like, cause you can pitch the ball behind you within 2 minutes. So like, even if the ball's knocked out, like, what's the difference? What's the difference between a fumble and a lateral if it doesn't touch the ground?
Well, I think the difference between a fumble and a lateral, one of the defining characteristics of a fumble is when it comes out from behind your elbow. That's a key component of not being a lateral when it's like poop and it comes out like there. Like yeah, it ain't no lateral. And that's what happened. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It was weird, and I thought it was a first, but the fact that it wasn't, and it was Baker, all you, buddy. You're alone in the world. You had the ball. You should have just fallen forward. You would have had the first down, but instead, no playoffs for you. You know what I mean? And I like that.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, what was it? The Colts that lost, so the Browns are still technically in the playoffs. So all they have to do is either get a win or I think a Colt or a Baltimore loss, I think, does it for him. I could be wrong on the exact stuff. But man, so when I'm looking at that whole Brown game, and I'm like, man, we're getting what do we get? 175 yards from Sam and 2 touchdowns, and then we had like it was still a game, and they were without their top 4 wide receivers. These guys never caught a pass from Baker Mayfield in the entirety of their careers. So how am I supposed to feel good about like the defense? I mean, the defensive line, yes, I guess. But man, it's almost like this victory feels very much like the Steelers' victory at the end of last year where we're facing a third-string quarterback, or the Bills' victory the last week of the season when they rested all their starters for the playoffs. Like, this doesn't feel like a win. Like, to me, the Jets are still 1-4, would be 1-14 right now. Like, the win against the Rams, that happened. This one, you know, I feel a little less enthusiastic about it, I guess.
Right, and one of our touchdowns was a Jamison Crowder touchdown pass, like a trick play.
How much does that burn you guys? Like, I hate trick plays. I'm like, I enjoy watching them, and it's fun when you got to get something, you know, at the end of a game, or you're just trying to like score points, and you already know your quarterback. But we're trying to like evaluate Sam and sort of like look at the offense. When you're flipping it to Jamison Crowder to throw a touchdown, it's like, well, I know Jamison Crowder's not going to be the quarterback. Like, what's going on here? I don't know. I didn't love it. Crowder had a good game, though. I'll give him that. Crowder had a very nice game.
No, he absolutely did.
Green bean. Uh-oh.
I said, yeah, we're evaluating. I know. I'm trying not to, like, hit this. This thing's loud. I don't want to hit it while you guys are talking. I got to be on point today if I'm going to play this game. But so I think, hey, look, you know, we're evaluating next year's quarterback, so we wanted to see where Crowder fits in. That's what we're doing. This is good stuff. We want to make sure Crowder is the guy or not the guy. Clearly, he is. That was the best pass all year. You know what I mean?
So I guess let's say what were our, if we could take away one thing from the Browns game, what was like the positive that we could take away? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mentioned it in my first take on it, and to me, it's just the play of the defensive line. I think that they've been a really solid unit all year long. And I get, if I'll go another direction too, Bryce Hall looks legit. Like, I think he is absolutely a starter.
Yeah.
Green bean. What would your first takeaway be?
Right. I'm right in line with him. I was going to say Bryce Hall just continues to solidify his game. Like he's still not where he's going to be. And you can see that, but every week he just gets smarter looking and more solid, and he's in the right places and all those kinds of things. But the other thing is I'm really happy with our defensive line, even without Quinn Williams. And Hewitt, man, as much as I don't think he's really a good starter, he's definitely worth having on a team, man. The guy plays his ass off. He's always running full speed. He's always scrambling. You can see the effort constantly with him. And sometimes it puts him in the position to make a play. He was the guy who ran into Baker on that awesome elbow fumble. I think it was him and Anderson. It might have been Henry Anderson woke up and was like, "Hey, I'll play too." But I think that's another thing. Hewitt's worth keeping. That doesn't mean I don't think we should upgrade there, but he's good as a rotational piece. And absolutely, I don't think you can get better depth at linebacker than a guy like Hewitt.
Yeah, I've changed my tune on Hewitt. Originally, when I did my first mock-off season, I had him not coming back. I just kind of figured we'd bring back Peanut. Now I've flipped the script on that. I would bring Hewitt back. I don't know what amount you necessarily do, but I think having him, especially when you don't really know what Mosley's going to be next year. Like, he's been out of the league for 2 years now. Like, that's what it is. He's played 3 quarters in 2 years.
It's crazy.
I don't know. It's going to be real interesting, I think, to say the least. So I guess for my takeaways, it's going to fall right in line with you guys. The defensive line was really good. I like Foley Fatukasi. I like John Franklin Myers. Franklin Myers, I believe, has 1 more year left on his deal. When we get Quinnen back, that's going to be awesome. I do think we move on from Henry Anderson at the end of this year. I think we save like $8.5 million or $8 million just from moving on from him. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to. I would say this: if I had to sour on someone over the course of the entire season, I would like to feel better about Braden Mann, but man, he has left a lot to be desired on some of his kicks. He had a 14-yard punt, the one punt, and then I'm hoping it's maybe just bad weather or something. I don't know. I would like to see him get more kicks inside the 20. I don't know. I'm not as high as I was on him at one point, but again, it's a punter, so maybe it's a little trivial. But Matt, what do you think about that?
No, I'm with you on that 100%. I think he's been decent. I think he's been okay, like maybe a middle of the road kind of punter, but I think people have been talking about him being like this elite punter, which I just haven't seen. I think he's been fine. I think there's been really good kicks and some that are just like, that's not too good. But you talking about stock down, that kind of sparked me on another thought with somebody who I've just about had it with. Brashad Perriman's effort is just atrocious. I don't know, on that one deep ball, he just gave up on the route. He stopped running. Like, I don't understand. I don't want to bring him back even as a 4th wide receiver. He just annoys the crap out of me.
When I saw that play, all he had to do was lunge forward. Like, it was like on the tips of his fingers, and it just looked like he gave up entirely. And I'm just like, oh, really? Like, I thought he could have been something, pretty good. I would have brought him back on the same deal we gave him this year. Now I think we probably let him go. Green Bean, what about you? Are there any players you're kind of down on?
Well, I agree with Perryman. That was some bullshit, man. And we saw that with Robbie sometimes too. Like, we like to forget about that stuff. And I'm not reneging on my desire to retain him, but that was kind of the knock on him sometimes, was that the effort wasn't always 100% all the time. And we saw that from Perryman. And the thing is, like, I honestly don't see Perryman as a 4th wide receiver, because 4th and 5th wide receivers got to play specials. They have to. So once you start getting down there, damn well Perryman is not making it through the season if you throw him out there on punt. You know what I mean? He's just not doing it. But I think, who else? Can you hear me? Okay, I thought I was.
Yeah, no, I could hear you. I was just going to say, Becca comes in with a super chat asking if I fed the dog. I did feed the dog, and Bali pooped for a 3rd time today. So if you're watching this, I know, right?
Feed the dog?
I fed the dog, and the dog pooped before I came on. Sorry, Green Bean.
That is fantastic, dude. No, dude, come on, that's worth it. That was fantastic. That is that's well-placed comedy and serious shit that you need to address right away.
It really,
but it's
funny. Serious shit.
Yeah, I get it, man. I have one of those.
Let's see. We have a super chat coming in from Vinny. He says, Matt, what would be worse, a world without whiskey or a world where country musicians are forbidden to play the Telecaster?
I'd pick death. I want neither of those things. I don't want to live in a world where either of those things can't happen. So that's my answer.
Joe S. comes in.
Death.
He says, will Gase be joining the panel next week? God, I hope not. I would not want his crazy eyes all over the place on this show. Just ruining it.
I have a few things to ask him. Can we get him on the show, please?
That's
just
right.
Hey, what were you thinking?
Oh my God, wouldn't you love that, Matt?
Just give me
just
10,
like, hey,
please.
unload. It's like pull the veil back from what's behind there. What are we trying to give us the nitty gritty of the Jets?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be the biggest asshole in New York?
Yeah, right. You do realize that we don't just dislike you as a coach. Like, we sincerely dislike you as a person. Do you know that? Are you aware? I know. I would have one question. Do you really think it was a good idea not to fucking hire a quarterback coach for a young 21-year-old quarterback, you piece of shit? How's
Dude,
that?
that's like no offensive coordinator really and no quarterback coach. Like, this is like who should be grooming our guy. Like Gase shouldn't have been the guy to groom the quarterback. It should have been someone who was solely focused on that one aspect.
Freaking Gase and Dowell.
Only job.
It was, no wonder Sam failed. It was Gase and Dowell in charge of developing this kid. Atrocious.
Dude,
Yeah.
Atrocious.
That's
absolutely
right.
brutal.
And Dowell, and we've talked about this before. If you want to wait for confirmation of what we're saying on how bad they were, first of all, there's no quarterback coach. That's a fact. But number two, let's see if Dowell Loggins gets picked up from another team as an offensive coordinator. Let's see if Gase finds another job. They're not going to even get hired, in my opinion. For any Loggins might be like quality control or assistant wide receiver, something like that. He'll never have this high of a position again. And that shows you what we've been griping about this whole last 2 years. They are terrible. And poor Sam Darnold, dude. You know what I mean? He's 21 years old, and they give him this shit.
So Max comes in with a super chat. He says, do you want the Jets to draft Zach Wilson next year? I watched highlights of Zach Wilson, and he reminds me of a smaller Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. The arm angles, I think you can argue, are similar to Patrick Mahomes. It's like very shortstop-esque. I don't really see Josh Allen. Josh Allen's just got a howitzer of an arm, and he just can bowl over guys. I don't really think Wilson's going to be in that same sort of category. I would be okay with Wilson trading down, I think. I don't know if I'm sold on him at the number 2 spot. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I am at 2. He's my second quarterback. I'm not anti-Fields. I just prefer Zach Wilson over Fields. So if Fields was the pick at 2, I'm not crying over it. But I understand the Mahomes comparison, especially in college, because I think a lot of people said, oh, big arm, spread offense, small school, who did they play, which is kind of the same things you're saying about Zach Wilson. And obviously, I'm not saying that Wilson's going to turn into Mahomes at the next level. I don't think that's fair. But I do think that he has some similar traits that were described about Patrick Mahomes' experience in school. So,
and one thing to take note of, too, is I'm pretty sure Zach Wilson had 2 400-yard passing games. I'm pretty sure Mahomes had 11 400-yard passing games, and he had one game of like 790 yards. It's not like the same playing field for me with Mahomes and Wilson. I just think you could maybe say some of his craftiness and the arm angles and stuff like that are very much in line. Green Bean, what about you? Would you draft Zach Wilson?
I might. Again, I mean, I'm sorry to say that one of my intentions after last week's panel was to really dig into Zach Wilson, but it's been a consuming week, so it just hasn't happened. But this is what I'll say, and this is the good news spin for that question. I'm going to take a politician's approach to that one. So what I really think is going to happen, and this is where the news gets so good. And remember, we were talking about this a few weeks ago. We're about to see Joe Douglas get the actual keys to the New York Jets. This will be the first time since Bill Parcells that an actual football man is in charge of our fucking team. Okay. So that's what's going to happen. Now, Joe Douglas knows how to do this. So he's going to bring in a coach and they're going to talk about it. And if they think Zach Wilson is the pick at number 2, I support it 1,000%. Like, that's how I see it.
Becca, you'll get your comment up on the screen because I'm scrolling past it right now. Did I feed the dog? Yes, I did. Your boy taking care of puppy. I love it. Max comes back with another super chat. He says, I feel that Zach Wilson is more ready for the NFL than Justin Fields since Zach Wilson is already in a pro-style offense at BYU. I think the pro-style offense is very overrated at this point. I mean, aside from like a quarterback looking to the sideline and the coordinators holding up like a big A or B and like not really making a call or anything, I think a lot of the NFL offenses are starting to look a lot more like college offenses, so I'm not as afraid of it. So Justin Fields is interesting to me, and I think for you guys, Green Bean, are you in on the live stream for the Ohio State Clemson game? I forgot to touch base with you before the stream.
Oh yeah, when is that again? I think I am. I think
it's this Friday.
I came late,
first.
So that's an issue.
No, it's all right.
This Friday,
better than coming early, right?
Yeah.
Hey, oh, sorry.
That's right.
This is a family show.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna look at Justin Fields really closely this Friday, 8:00, the Clemson Ohio State game. So I think as you guys start to watch more tape on Fields, you'll start to feel more comfortable. And I think some of that is on me saying like, I'm not sold on the guy and the strength of schedule and like that sort of stuff. But I like Justin Fields. I think he could be really, really good. And I think he's more my quarterback too than Wilson at this point right now. And I reserve the right to change my opinion at some point, but right now I'm feeling pretty good with Justin Fields. Do you think Zach Wilson, Matt? Do you think rather than that, we'll say, do you think a pro style offense is overrated, or do you think it's important coming out of college at this point?
Not really to me. When I look at a quarterback prospect in college, I look to see more of their traits and what I think they do well. And I don't really necessarily buy into that it has to be a pro style offense. And like you said, the games are kind of blending now, so much so. And I think that's why a lot of people want to go the college coach route in the NFL. So I don't really buy into that. I don't think it really matters one way or the other.
Green Bean, what about you? Do you think it matters if we're in a pro style offense or not for a quarterback coming out?
I think for the quarterback it does, and that's the whole thing. It's like it's whether or not you're going to take a guy and have the offense built around him that he's going to thrive in, or are you going to try to make him and develop him into something he's not? We see this stuff all the time. Like you hear it all the time. They're trying to make a running quarterback into a pocket quarterback. They're trying to make this guy do that. Like Sam Darnold, we know that he's good outside the pocket. So what does Gase do? Nothing. You know what I mean? He just does nothing. So I think the smart coaches and smart organizations know if you're looking at a player and you look at your coach, what are their strengths? Does this player match your strength? So I don't give a shit if they run spread, if they run, more college style offenses, or if you go back to the 1994 run and shoot with Mouse Davis. I don't care. As long as the coach and the player are good at that, I think any offense can work. I really do.
I got 2613 Mike coming in with a super chat. He says, do you have to pay Becca back? I think you are under the impression that any of my money is mine to begin with. It all goes to Becca anyway. It's oh no. I'll don't you worry. I'll pay her back. I'll probably walk the dog or something. I got to show Eddie DeJesus' comment because he says that friggin' COVID tree is still behind Ryan. I hope the dog pisses on it. I love my Christmas tree up in the background. I'm gonna have it up till the 1st. We're taking it down on the 1st. We always leave it up till the end of the year. So screw you, Eddie.
That's the standard, right? He's doing it by the rules, buddy.
I'm playing it by the book. All right. Who else we got in here? Kyle, I know you got a super chat in here somewhere. Boom. Okay. Kyle says, we need to trade Sam for a second or third and then trade back our second pick to about 10 to 15 to get more picks and still get a quarterback. We can get a haul for it. Green Bean, you're kind of our trade down aficionado. What do you think of this?
Wait, what is it? Say that again.
So he's saying we should trade Sam for a second or third and then trade down from number 2 to 10 or 15 or 10 to 15 and still get a quarterback.
Yeah. I don't think you're getting a quarterback outside. You'll get the Trasks, Mac Jones, Jamie Newman, who is my new flavor of the day. I can't stop talking about him. But, you'll get those guys at 10, 15. I don't think Fields, obviously Trevor Lawrence, Wilson, or you might get Lance around there. I don't think the other 3 guys are going to be there. So if they're important to you, you can't go that far. You might be able to get to 5, but I see Atlanta taking a quarterback at 4 if they're. I mean, that's going to be a very real conversation. And I don't know where the Panthers are. I think they might have moved back a little bit. But they're going to take a quarterback if they get the opportunity. So if you're at 10, I think it's too dangerous if quarterback's what you want.
I think they're 8.
I think that would be scary. What's that?
I think the Panthers are at 8, if I'm not mistaken.
So Panthers are sitting at 9 right now. They're just behind the Giants. Giants are at 8. Detroit's at 7. So teams that could take a quarterback, you got obviously Jacksonville 1. The Jets could take a quarterback, but if we're trading down, not so much. I think someone would be trading. Do you think someone trades up to 2 for Sewell or a quarterback at 2? Like that's going to be a huge discussion, I think.
Dude, well, where are the Bengals? Are they at 5 now? They're at 5.
The Bengals are at 5 now, right? Yeah,
you're right.
And I think Miami takes Sewell at 3.
I'm telling you. Yeah. So the Bengals know that, and you got to just call the Bengals and say, dude, this is your opportunity. You give me a second, you give me that injured center you have, Zach, whatever his name is, and maybe a 4th or something like that. You hop up here and you take your boy. If not, he's not making it to you. And if he's that important, which I think he is, you can get the Bengals, and then you're sitting at 5. You got Miami. They're not taking a quarterback, and they're not going to trade out because they're still in rebuild mode. And they're going to want blue chips. They did all their acquiring of extra picks and all. They did all that already. I don't see them being as tempted to trade down because they already have the capital. They have 2 picks and first round picks this year, so they're going to pick at 3. So then all you got to worry about is the Falcons at 4, and you're going to get Wilson or Fields, in my opinion. That's how I see it. So let me say that again. So you're at 2. You bring the Bengals up for Sewell. Cincinnati comes up, you get a second and some change, whatever it is. 2 to 5 is actually a lot. You might get even more. So then you got Miami. They're going to take probably Jamar Chase. That's who I see them taking. And he's an incredible stud. And then you got the Falcons. They're an X factor. They might grab Fields if he's sitting there. And then you can take Wilson at 5. And you get all that extra goody gumdrops. The only concern is people wanting to come from the 8s and 9s, like the Panthers, wanting to come up to 4 to jump you. And it's a very real concern. And this is what we were talking about last week. It's like, yes, that's tempting, but it's losing your guy. You play with fire, you get burned, man. That's just the way you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So, but I would do it.
Matt, any thoughts on the trade down scenario?
Yeah, Green Bean kind of just finished off with where I was going to go with this is I don't want to take that risk. One, trading down to 10 or 15, there's no one really there who I'd be 100% comfortable with. To me, you want one of the top 3 guys in this draft. And even if you're moving back with, let's say, Cincinnati, one, who knows, maybe someone takes the guy that you really want before that. And like Green Bean said, you don't know if someone's going to trade up. So if you're a quarterback needy team, if the Jets are taking a quarterback in this draft, take whoever it is that you like at 2. Don't play around. Don't get crazy. There's a lot of times I get told or I just see this take on the internet a bunch that I would take Zach Wilson or I would take Justin Fields, just not at 2. Well, why? Your quarterback is the most important position in the sport. If you're not willing to take your potential franchise guy at number 2, and by the way, you have another first round draft pick in this draft. It's not like your next pick isn't until the 3rd round. You're picking in 20 to 25 picks again. So you take the quarterback, then you go whatever direction you want to go in the back half of the first round, then you go from there. So I really don't have any interest in moving back. I would rather just take the guy that I really love in that spot there at 2 and go from there.
Yeah, for me, I don't. So I'm one of the guys that said I don't know if I like Wilson necessarily at 2. Like I like Fields. I do. I like Wilson. I'm with you that I think it's got to be one of the top 3. And if you're taking a quarterback, you have to take him at 2. Now, if you're kind of like in this boat of, we're okay with, we like these 2 guys and you want to move back, fine, whatever. I think going back with Cincinnati coming up, you falling back to 5, I think there's no shot Fields gets past Atlanta. He's from Georgia. I think he's definitely going to go there if he has the opportunity to. And then at 5, if you're not taking a quarterback, if that's what you're doing, I think I would go wide receiver at that point, or maybe corner. I don't like going corner that early, but I think there's some elite wide receivers like Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase, Waddle. Any one of those guys I think would be really good. I don't really want a receiver that high. I think the smart pick would be quarterback at 2. Jermaine Walker, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I would hold on to Sam and give him what he needs to succeed. Coach, weapons, and quarterbacks coach. With my first 2 picks, I'm building that O-line. My first pick is Sewell. I think that's where a lot of Jet fans wind up falling. And I was actually working on a mock draft today where I'm holding on to Sam, and I had Sewell going too. And it sounds so appealing. Like, Joe Douglas is of the mindset of Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome's first draft in 1996 was drafting Jonathan Ogden, very similar to Joe Douglas drafting Mekhi Becton. And then when you look at his time in Philadelphia, they had Jason Peters and they had Lane Johnson on the offensive line, and they still went out and they spent a first-round pick, I believe it was 21 or 22 overall, on Andre Dillard. So just because the Jets have 2 offensive linemen doesn't mean they can't add a guy like Sewell at number 2. So it's interesting to me. Green Bean, how do you feel about building around Sam and giving him all that stuff? Do you think it's worth it?
Well, here's what I'll say, and this is the perspective to look at it. We can all have our own opinions and thoughts and feelings and everything, but we're bringing in a new coach, okay? We have an opportunity right now to do something that we have not done since Eric Mangini and Tannenbaum, which is to actually have an organization start fresh with all the major components. Every year we have a coach that's forced on a GM, or a GM that's forced on a coach, fire the GM mid-season. We have all this stuff going on. Having a brand new coach and making him keep Sam Darnold, number one, it's going to limit your choices on coach. Number 2, you're making his first job to fix Sam Darnold. That's not the way you want to start a new era, man, is fix this old guy that we beat the living hell out of. We crashed this car into the wall rather than take a new car. Fix this one first, and then let's join the race. Like, I don't see it. As much as I like Sam Darnold, like seeing him smile the other day, there was a few tweets about it. How good does it feel? He was kind of like in the press conference. He had a whole jovial mood. He was loose. It was Sam again. And it was really, honestly, nice to see that. That said, I'm telling you, I think it's probably a fool's errand to keep him and build around him when you're bringing in a new coach. I just think it's starting with your feet in sand, in mud.
Matt, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And like this year specifically, he's played 10, 11 games, and there really hasn't been one that jumped off the page and was like, oh, that was a great Sam performance. People are saying that about the Rams game in Cleveland, but if you look at the numbers, 207 yards and a 6.6 yards per attempt, that's okay. It's not anything great. And then this past week against Cleveland, 50% completion percentage, 175 yards, and a yards per attempt at 5.5. Like, if that's the best we're at right now, I don't know how you could possibly sell a new coach coming in here and being like, yeah, we got to fix this kid, instead of, taking someone that both the general manager and the head coach likes at the number 2 pick. It's not like they're picking 10th and Sam took a lateral step. If that's what happened, then okay, obviously, yeah, you roll with Sam, but he has regressed so badly. So he's statistically the worst starting quarterback in football. I don't think you can make the case against that right now.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall. And as much as I love Sam and I want to see him do well, I mean, I think he can salvage a career somewhere. I just don't know if the Jets, and the contract is really what gets me, because you're going to have to give him his 5th-year option this offseason, and that's guaranteed for injury. So God forbid Sam winds up going down with an injury halfway through next year. You're stuck with $25 million against your salary cap the next year. It's not going to happen. I don't know. I agree with Green Bean. I think pointing everything in the same direction, GM, coach, quarterback, just kind of go that way. Feels like it makes the most sense. Noah Van Burnt comes in saying, guys, how are we feeling about drafting Penei Sewell at number 2 overall, and what position do you think we take with our second first-round pick from Seattle? I think, are we all on board? If we don't go quarterback, are we taking Sewell or are we trading down? I think, Matt, are you on a trade down or a Sewell kind of bandwagon?
Um, if we're not, if we're sticking with Sam, you could sell me on both options. I think I would prefer to trade down in that spot because I don't really think right tackle is a huge issue for this team. I think you could move back, get a wide receiver, add another interior offensive lineman, which that would have been my answer for the second first round pick. I think they go interior, either Wyatt Davis or the kid for USC. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's been really good. And I think that I would go on the interior, which is more of a need than right tackle for me.
The interior guy you're talking about is Vera Tucker. Yeah, I don't know how to Alja Vera Tucker. He's right now on Tankathon. He's ranked as the 36th best player, so he should be right around there. Creed Humphrey would be another one that could be in that same wheelhouse if you want to stick him at guard or center or something like that. But McGovern's played well. McGovern, I think it's since week 9 maybe he's been like a top 10 center again. So it seems like he's actually found his footing. I'll say this with the second, if we take Sewell at 2, I would look really hard at either cornerback or wide receiver with the Seattle pick. It kind of depends where the value is there. Green Bean, what about you?
I think honestly, I think it's a mistake to pick Sewell at 2. That's just, I wouldn't hate it, but I think it's probably a mistake. Your 2 number 1 picks in 2 years in a row being tackles. I just, as much as the position and all that, like it's not as bad as taking another defensive tackle a bunch of years in a row. But I would be a little bit less psyched about that. If we did, I think edge or wide receiver have to be the next. But well, I don't know. I think then you got to get a quarterback, or I just don't like that. I don't like that route where it takes you. It's like last year we were doing all these mocks and we were talking about the big debate last year was tackle or wide receiver. Remember we were split like down the middle as a fan base. And I did mocks and really tried to make each one look good. Whenever I did a wide receiver first mock, the rest of the mock was destroyed. In many ways, it was much harder to get your goals accomplished when you did it incorrectly. That's how I feel about it this year. Like with taking the tackle, it's just like, it's not the worst move in the world, but I just think that would be a mistake for what we're trying to build. I think Fant's not the issue. I think Matt might have said that last week. Maybe he did. Forgive me if I'm not. But I think like taking a Wyatt Davis, not at 2 though, but then see that's the thing. I would trade back, build the capital, take Wyatt Davis, take Patrick Jones, take Rondell Moore or one of these guys at 34, and we're rocking, man. We are on our way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like it. Darnold, thank you for the super chat. He goes, rumors of Wink Martindale as possible Jets coach. Thoughts? Who would he bring as OC? Maybe he can get Judon, Yannick, or Jimmy Smith to the Jets. I think bringing in either Greg Roman or Martindale would be a wise move if you want to try and get a little bit more out of CJ Mosley. I think we retain Peanut in that situation. Martindale, for those of you guys that don't know, is the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Really interesting coach. He's had that defense playing really well. I don't love it just because I would like to go quarterback, and I think if you bring in a defensive coach, you have a higher likelihood of having your offensive coordinator stolen to be a head coach if he does well. Now, that said, I don't know if we've had that sort of situation since like Brian Schottenheimer, and even then we didn't have him pulled away. So I don't know. I like Martindale. I think he strikes me very similarly to like Rex. Like he actually, his first, this is his second Harbaugh he's working for. He worked for, I think it was Jack Harbaugh originally, and then wound up working for John down in Baltimore. I like him. I like him a lot. I think the personality's there. I think he's an old gritty kind of head coach. Would be an old gritty kind of head coach. I would like him more as a defensive coordinator, and he's not leaving Baltimore to be a defensive coordinator elsewhere. Green Bean, you got any thoughts on Martindale?
I'm on mute. Sorry. Yeah, I think if we pick Martindale, our first four candidates said no. That's how I see Martindale. Maybe he might be a Frank Reich and end up being great and all that, but I think if we announce that we're signing Wink Martindale or as our head coach, it's because people said no, that we wanted more than Martindale. That's not good.
Matt, what do you think about Martindale?
Yeah, I think if he was the hire, well, it wouldn't surprise me if he was the hire because that's a name that's further down on the list. I'm not saying he would be an awful hire, but you're probably not going to get Matt Campbell if you don't have the number one pick. You're probably not going to get Jim Harbaugh, which probably is a blessing in my opinion.
Well, he just resigned. He just got his extension. Harbaugh did. Yeah, he just got it today.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
Yep. Yeah, he's back in Michigan now.
It's a great day.
Yeah, great day for the Brand.
Gase is going bye-bye. Harbaugh's not coming to the Jets. Like all these different things.
Or like Cow. Like I don't think you're going to get Cow or any of those guys. So I think I wouldn't be surprised with Wink. You would just have to pair him with a really good offensive coordinator and someone who would be in charge of either A, saving Sam somehow, or B, developing that next quarterback. I know I've talked about him on here and on my channel, but I really like Mike McDaniel. He's the run game coordinator for the 49ers and pretty much Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. And I don't know about you guys, but I love Kyle Shanahan. I think he's an innovative offensive guy. And if this kid is his right-hand man, then that's a really good sign, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be a really smart hire for an OC if you can wind up snatching him away. Pete says, how do you feel about Trey Lance? I really like Trey Lance. He is built like a quarterback that would succeed in the NFL. The speed, the arm strength. He's awesome. He really is. He's coming out of North Dakota State. So small school, same school that Carson Wentz came out of. My biggest concern with Trey Lance is the games played. He's only played in 17 games in his collegiate career. So when you're looking at quarterbacks that have only played 1 year, you do have a few that are good. You have Kyler Murray, and you have who is the other one? I'm drawing a blank right now. Kyler Murray and Cam Newton was one that played 1 year. So there are examples of it, but then there's also examples like Mark Sanchez, Dwayne Haskins, Mitch Trubisky that have only played 1 year, and then they kind of wow, but you're not necessarily sure what you're getting out of him. So I like Trey Lance. I don't think he's in the discussion for the Jets unless you trade back, a little bit, and then maybe you like him and you picked up a first next year or something like that. But I would let someone else roll the dice on Trey Lance, and he'll have a successful career possibly somewhere else, and I'm okay with that. I just don't think it's the gamble for the Jets. Green Bean, what about you? What do you think about Trey Lance?
Sadly, I don't know enough about him to really make an opinion, but the guy, I listen to some guys that like some other podcasts, like breaking down draft specialists and stuff. And they seem to think that Trey Lance needs a year, like that he's very raw. Drafting him to be your starter day one might be a bad move. So I that's all I really feel like. That's all I really know. So I would hate to see him be our pick if that is in fact the case.
Matt, what do you think about Trey Lance?
I like him. I think he's my fourth quarterback in this class. I think he would probably be best suited for a team that could sit him, maybe not for the entire year, but maybe like a situation where, like a Tyrod Taylor plays the first 6 games and then he comes in and plays the next 10, something like that. The skills are there. It's just we haven't seen him this year. And in the one game we did see him, he didn't jump off the page, but his talent level is really high. I think if I were taking him, I would like a situation where I have a veteran in place who can at least get me by on either the season or a little bit of time and then transition to him after that.
Yeah.
He looks like the perfect quarterback for wherever Greg Roman goes, kind of. I think he likes that running style. Greg Roman had a very successful offense with Colin Kaepernick, with Tyrod Taylor, Alex Smith, and now Lamar Jackson. So I could see that sort of – I like the idea of letting him sit for a year. When I'm looking at the draft and I'm looking at the draft board and whatnot, you have Detroit at 7 maybe, but they're going to – if they move on from Stafford – I think that sort of pushes Lance to start, so you'd have to sign, some type of, intermediate, starter or interim starter. Denver at 10 is interesting. I think they're still sort of with Locke right now. Dallas at 11, if they decide to roll with 1 year of Dak or something like that, might be an interesting situation. San Francisco has fallen so far down with the victories. They're picking 15th now. I thought they were a team that could pick up one of these younger quarterbacks and really do well. Because like Matt said, I'm really high on Shanahan out there. KD Allen says, build the running game no matter the quarterback. You have to. And not so much the running game, but I think the offensive line, because when you build the offensive line, the running game sort of comes with it, and that's going to help out whoever your quarterback is. It doesn't matter if you have Trevor Lawrence or if you have Sam Darnold. You got to build the O-line, and you have a running game that the guy can lean on. You could work the play action. I think that's a really smart move. Do you guys have any thoughts on the running game, Green Bean?
Well, I would like to see us put a little bit more emphasis on it than we have. You had that good stat, I think it was you, Ryan, about that Joe Douglas, all the way, with the Ravens, like they haven't picked a running back before, like pick 50 or 60 in his entire career, right? Or something like that.
That wasn't me, but so that's a good stat.
Yeah, I mean, the first year when he was the what do you call that guy again? I'm so old.
Scout?
I don't know what happened to me. No, when the guy that walks around, the Turk, when Joe Douglas was the Turk, handing everybody their pink slips. When he was at that year they took that running back, the Baltimore running back, I forget. But since then, the Ravens, Eagles, Bears, they haven't taken a running back anywhere Joe Douglas has been before pick 50. So that's a pretty good indicator of his thinking. But I would like to see us put a little bit more emphasis than we have. I was happy to see him draft one in the 4th last year. And I happen to like Pirine, but I think maybe a little bit more. I wouldn't be devastated if Najee Harris is sitting there at 33. I would hope they're considering it. But I think, like you said, it's really what's key for any running back is if they're running through holes, they're going to go places. You know what I mean?
Matt, what do you think about the running game?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards going with a running back by committee kind of thing in 2021. And I think Ty Johnson can and should be back, and LaMichael Pirine are going to be 2 of the 3. The other guy that I really want to add is Jamal Williams from Green Bay. I think he's great. One, he's really good in pass protection. He can catch the ball. And I think when Jones is either banged up or when he's needed to be, spelled for whatever reason, that Williams has done a fine job. And it almost reminds me of like the Chris Ivory situation where they brought him in and he was kind of like just the forgotten guy with the Saints. And then he comes in here and is like the feature back and then has a 1,000-yard season. I don't know if Williams would ever be that kind of player, but I think if those 3 guys are your running back and you address guard and even potentially add another tackle in this draft class, I think you could have a solid run game too.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with the running back by committee. I don't know if I want to pay a free agent running back. I really like Kenny Gainwell in like the 3rd round out of Memphis. I'm a big fan of him. He strikes me as someone that could be like a Kamara, just super fast. I'd be all on board with it. Probably with our 2nd, 3rd round pick. Ooh, excuse me. New York Jets France. Hi, guy. Just to say hello from the official Jets fan club here in France. We are French, and a lot of us follow your show. It's 2:30 a.m. here. Thank you so much from across the pond. It's awesome to have some international viewers. It's a definitely cool to see that.
Yeah, sure.
I love your French fries, even though I know that's not a French thing. Hold on, I think I missed something in here. Let's see. Where is it? Where am I looking? I see E-Rock 841. Okay, so I missed Max's comment. Max has a comment in here. Again, he's saying, after the Jets fire Adam Gase, after the Patriots game, in my recent offseason video, I said the Jets should look at PJ Fleck as the Jets head coach. Matt, do you want to touch base on the PJ Fleck thing? I know you were pretty high on him.
I like PJ Fleck, man. He gets his guys amped up and ready to play for him. He's kind of, I would say he's a program builder, kind of like what Matt Campbell or Matt Rule are like. I would not be opposed to PJ Fleck. I think he's an intense guy, but an intense guy that people want to play for. Like not like Greg Williams is intense, but he rubs people the wrong way. Like PJ Fleck seems to be all about like bringing everyone together and like, okay, we're gonna go out and do this as a team, as a unit. Which I think that's not a bad thing for this Jets team. It really isn't.
All right. What else do I have here? I got E-Rock says, regardless of what Joe Douglas does with Sam coaching and the picks, I trust his judgment. I want to trade down, get a potential Trask or Lance to battle with Sam. So I was telling Matt before the show, actually, that I would be open with Sam coming back and not taking a quarterback at 2 and trading down. Like, say, I mean, whether you take Sewell at 2 or maybe you shift down to like 5, like Green Bean was saying, and then maybe you're taking a receiver there, like a Devontae Smith, a Waddle, or a Jamar Chase, and then with your Seattle pick, maybe you're looking at a Trask or a Lance. I think that Lance is probably going to go earlier than that, but I like Kyle Trask a lot. He is really strong-armed. He's got a beautiful ball. His mobility is something that I think is a concern. I think if you're looking for a dual threat kind of quarterback that could make the defenses really think a lot, that might be something you want to consider. Matt, any thoughts on trading down and taking a quarterback to battle with Sam?
I really don't like that. I think you should either be all in on Sam or move on from him. I think if you're kind of keeping him around, I don't know how much sense that really makes for both parties, really. I think you either just have to cut ties and move on or say, okay, you're our guy. I think if you play it down the middle, that's, setting yourself up for really a disaster, because I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be able to figure it out here. And frankly, I don't really trust a player like Mac Jones or Kyle Trask to be a franchise quarterback.
Green Bean, what do you think about trading down and possibly having a quarterback battle with Sam and Trask or Lance?
I mean, it's definitely a plan, like there's logic there, especially let's say we hire best case scenario, Matt Campbell, and Matt Campbell says, I know I can fix Sam Darnold. I know it. I'd still like to draft this guy Trask in the second or something like that. I think it's a plan. You have a real quarterback battle with Kyle Trask, Sam Darnold, James Morgan's in the mix, and you let these 3 young guys fight it out. Me personally, I would rather not do that because they all could suck. You know what I mean? I mean, anybody can suck, but it's like we already know Sam's damaged, and then we're clearly dropping to the second tier of talent with quarterbacks other than the arm. Like you said, Ryan, Trask's mobility is an issue, and not just his mobility, it's his footwork. He throws, his mechanics are off. He's lighting it up. But it's one of those things that when he gets to the NFL, those types of issues are going to be exposed and amplified. So it's definitely a plan, but I think that we're probably going to do it a different way. I think we're going to get a quarterback higher.
Yeah, I think what Matt said with the whole, not going right down the middle and sticking with either Sam or going with a quarterback in the draft. I think that's the way you kind of have to do it. You don't want to divide a locker room, especially with a new head coach there. Mike, thank you for the super chat. He says, how do you feel about trading back for Devonta Smith? I really like Devonta Smith. I know a lot of people aren't super high on him because he's really light. I think he's like 175 or 180 pounds or something like that. He's really, really good. If we're trading back, I would hope we're going to have a shot at taking one of 2 of the wide receivers, like kind of how we had the similar situation where it was either Wirfs or Becton. I'd like to have an option of 2 wide receivers if we're sliding back a little bit. Green Bean, you have any thoughts on Devonta Smith trading back for him?
Yeah, I happen to like him a lot. He's one of my favorite currently. There's a lot more deep eval that we got to do, but right now, I think he's one of the better receivers. But you're right, Ryan. That's the concern with him, is that his frame is slight. He's 175 pounds. So I think a guy like Bateman, like if they were both on the board, like you're saying, as much as I like Devonta Smith, I would probably lean Bateman. And I'm okay with waiting a bit. I happen to really like a few of the later receivers, Seth Williams being one of my favorites. The guy from Florida, oh, his name is escaping me. Super crazy fast dude from Florida. He's like electric. I love him too. I like Sage Surratt, Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. So, I don't know. I'm like okay with grabbing edge and those quarterbacks a little bit higher and pushing wide receiver. This class happens to be pretty deep, and the guys are good. Like Seth Williams, man, just keep an eye on that kid. He's really one of the better receivers in the draft. He's one of my faves. I love him.
The receiver you were talking about from Florida, Kadarius Toney, was the
Darius. There he is. I know. I wanted to say Tobias. I knew it wasn't right. I was like, Tobias isn't it? Don't say it.
Matt, what do you think about trading down for Devonta Smith?
I love Devonta Smith. I can't see. I have a hard time not taking quarterback, but okay, let's play the game of we're sticking with Sam Darnold. Then okay, instead of taking Sewell, trading back and taking Devonta Smith, sure, yeah, let's do that because I think he's going to be really good at the next level. I like him as a prospect a lot, so you can sell me on that for sure.
Not to mention, if you trade down and you're picking up Devonta Smith, you're probably getting an extra first-round pick for 2022. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Kyle says, who do we pick? Who do we pick with our second first-round pick and our second-round pick? I would like. I guess it all depends on how free agency goes and if we're taking the quarterback or taking the tackle at 2. I'll say this, the players that I'm sort of looking at are more position-based as opposed to like specific players at this point in time. And I would say wide receiver should be considered, guard, cornerback, edge. Those would be the 4 positions. I'm not touching running back in the first or second round. I mean, you might be able to get me on board with the second round, but that's like only if they fall in love with a guy. I'm not too high on taking running backs that early. Edge is a tough one because I don't feel like this is a great edge draft. I've been watching a bunch of guys and none of them are really popping off the page to me. So for me, if I go wide, I would prefer wide receiver. I think I don't know. We just drafted Mims, so I kind of want to pay a wide receiver in free agency, so that way we overlap rookie contract with like big contract, and then when Mims has to get paid, the free agent high priced one's gone, and then we draft another receiver at that point. So maybe I would go cornerback edge with those 2 picks. Green Bean, what about you?
You want to know what I really want to do? And this is people are going to say whatever they're going to say, but I think the position's undervalued, and I think this happens to be a strong class. I'm all over Pat Freiermuth as a tight end. I think he's unbelievably good. He's Kels, he's Kittle, and we would love him. Like we talk about wide receivers, he has every bit of the impact of a wide receiver, and he actually happens to be a very good blocker. And he's like the attitude on this kid. He's just like nobody's stopping me kind of guy. And so I'm really hoping that Joe Douglas, Chris Herndon, that's fine. Second tight end. We're still going to keep him around. He's on his rookie contract, but I would love to see them go and get one of these dynamic Kyle Pitts, Freiermuth tight ends. I would be elated if that happened.
Matt, what about you? What are you thinking with first, second round?
So at the back half of the first round, I would either like to go with 3 positions: guard, edge, or corner. I think those are all huge needs for this team. And then the same thing with the first, second round pick. So Wyatt Davis to me is the dream if he makes it there. I don't know if he does. If not, that USC kid, I keep blanking on his name. I know it's the hyphenated name. I just can't remember.
Yeah, I can never remember it. It's
Vera Tucker, I think.
Vera Tucker. Yep.
And then I really like the edge rusher I like is Patrick Jones from Pitt. I think he could potentially be there at 33 or 34. So early in the second round. I think that's the route that I would go personally.
Yeah, you brought up Patrick Jones. I did have him. I saw Green Bean had him, I believe, was it the second or third round in your mock draft last night?
I think we might have got him with our second first. We weren't playing.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's who I took it with. I think so that's
Patrick Jones.
I like
my
him.
favorite edge rusher in this draft.
I started looking into him after I saw your pick with him, and I was like, you know what, this kid's pretty good. I would be okay with that for sure. Max says, what are some offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators the Jets should get with their next head coach? I want the Jets to hire Kafka at OC and Dan Quinn as DC. Kafka, I absolutely love. We're not going to get him as an offensive coordinator. The Chiefs blocked the Eagles from allowing him to interview as their offensive coordinator this past year. I think Andy Reid loves Mike Kafka, and he is the heir apparent to Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City. If we could get him, he's 100% who I would want. In terms of defensive coordinator, I really like Jim Leonard, former Jets safety who's now the defensive coordinator for Wisconsin. I think he would be really good, and I also think, is it Aaron Glenn, the one that's the secondary coach for the Saints? I would like that as well. Matt, any OCs or DCs you're looking at?
Yeah, I talked about Mike McDaniel before. I like him a lot. Kafka, I think, is going to take over for Bieniemy whenever he leaves, so I don't know how realistic that is. There's some maybe like you can maybe sell me on a Marvin Lewis as a defensive coordinator. I wouldn't mind going with a retread head coach who, maybe stepped away for a year or so.
Did you look at my mock off season? I had Marvin Lewis on the list.
Okay. Or how about Dan Quinn? Oh, you said Dan Quinn. Yeah, but like a guy like that, Wade Phillips, I know he's old, but he's had a ton of success too as a defensive coordinator. But like someone like that, I think would be my take.
And Marvin Lewis was with Baltimore when Joe Douglas was with Baltimore. So I could absolutely see that marriage there. I think if we have a first-time head coach, like Green Bean was kind of saying in the past, you want someone there that can at least kind of lead guys. And Marvin Lewis, while his team's never won a playoff game, I think it's very underrated in terms of a defensive coordinator move. I think that brings a lot of experience to help with whoever the head coach winds up being. I'd be all on board with that. Green Bean, what about you? Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator?
Yeah, well, on Kafka, I actually think he's really the offensive coordinator there. And I think that they're totally fine with Bieniemy leaving. I don't think Bieniemy's going to get a head coaching job, but that's my prediction. I think he's interviewed plenty of times before. He's not getting these jobs for reasons other than, the race thing. I don't think that comes into play with these guys. So I don't know. I think Kafka's more beneficial to Andy Reid. And don't forget, Andy Reid was blocked more than once as a positional coach, which is why they had to take him from positional coach all the way to head coach, because they wouldn't promote him and they kept blocking him. They didn't want him to leave. So he knows what it's like to have your positional coach having more of a impact and value to your team. And I think Kafka is going to be the offensive coordinator. I don't think he's letting them go. That all said, for defensive coordinator, but he would be fantastic, man. Defensive coordinator, I really still like Chris Richard from Dallas. I think he's one of those guys that are it's going to happen for him soon. And he's one of those guys that gets everybody pumped up, but he's super smart. Like, he's very creative with his schematics. And I think I would love to see a guy like him. I don't think Marvin Lewis is going to come. And let me say one thing. I actually am not a Dan Quinn fan. I don't even think he did that much in Seattle. He's riding on the coattails of the guy before him and Pete Carroll. So I think that would be one of those fool's gold moves. Not to disagree with you publicly, Ryan. That's not my intention.
No, I didn't. That wasn't me. That was Matt.
That's okay.
Oh, that was Max.
Quinn,
not Matt.
Yeah. I just happen not to like Dan Quinn very much, and I would hate to see his name recognition end up getting him our job. But the good news is I actually trust Joe Douglas to know that. This is not Mike McCagnon or John Idzik or fucking Chris Johnson. Those guys look for names. Joe Douglas looks for talent. And I think that we're going to bypass those kinds of things. So anyway, Chris Richard's my choice.
So one more thing on Kafka that's interesting is when the Chiefs first played Patrick Mahomes in the final game of the regular season back in 2017, the rest of the team was told to focus on the playoff game because they had already locked up their playoff spot. And Kafka was the one that was in charge of running the offense for Patrick Mahomes that game. That is absolutely huge. That's why I want him more than I want Bieniemy. Zachary says, Sewell at 2, Samuel Jr. with the Seahawks pick, and if Darnold's not the answer, have a complete team next year when the Jets move on. Opinion. So I like the idea. Before the season, when I thought Sam was the guy and I wanted to build around him, and if people thought he wasn't the guy, I thought we should still build around him for next year. I do understand this thought process. At this point, I'm kind of sort of over Sam, but I like the thought process of building this team up as much as possible. I just don't like the idea of having to now trade a bunch of picks to get up to get a quarterback possibly, or passing on guys that could be a Mahomes or a Watson like we did with the Hackenberg draft, or the Jamal draft afterwards.
Oh my God.
What do you guys think? I guess we'll talk about Samuel Jr., Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. Have you guys watched any bit of him, or what do you think, Matt?
Who's that?
If I'm not
Asante Samuel.
If I'm not mistaken, he's a little on the smaller side, so he might have to be a slot corner, which it kind of depends on what the Jets do with Brian Poole. I think for me to take him, I think I'd be looking more for an outside corner. As far as the sticking with Sam and potentially taking someone next year, how many times have we tried that with, like, in 2016 or 2017, you didn't take a quarterback because you had Christian Hackenberg, who you thought could have been the guy. You never played a game, and then you missed out on the opportunity to take Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. And then you had to trade up to get your quarterback, and then that hurts the development of that quarterback you trade up for because you don't have any picks, which is exactly what happened with Sam. So if Sam isn't the guy, and let's say they don't go 2-14 again, let's say they go 6-10, then you have to move up to get your guy and give up the assets. So why not, when you're picking 2 and you have the worst starting quarterback in football, I feel like it's obvious. It's staring you right in the face. Just take whichever quarterback you like the most right there.
Yeah, Green Bean, what about you? Any thoughts on Asante Samuel Jr.?
Oh, yeah, I happen to like him. I think it's just pretty neat this year that we have 2 kids of former cornerbacks coming out, and
Surtain and
I think it's just, I like that kind of stuff. I like when these, and Samuel, I think it's neat to me when these kids come in, their dads were legitimate NFL pros, and then the kids come in and they're legit. It's not just like, oh yeah, like Phil Simms' kids, like they sucked, you know what I mean? For the most part. And a lot of these guys, like, they just don't do much. I think it's neat, but I like Asante Samuel Jr. I think Surtain is probably better. But yeah, Sam, looking at he's 5'10", 180. That's like right on the edge of being small. So he's on the lighter side. Conversely, Patrick Surtain is 6'1", 203.
Yeah.
That's
it's night and day. Well, one guy's projected to be a top 10 pick. Yeah, one guy's projected to be a top 10 pick in Surtain, and I haven't seen Asante Samuel before, like, late second round, I think. So I wouldn't take him at the Seattle pick.
But right.
But I would say end of second, third round, I would take him.
Better though?
Who?
Yeah, I think if I had the choice of, like, Samuel, well, in that later, like the third round kind of thing, I'm hoping Sean Wade is there. I think that's the guy. I don't think
he makes it that far.
Wade.
I think you'd have to take him at the Seattle pick.
Agree.
good.
Chris Bucco jumping in. Zach Wilson, Joe Brady, and Marvin Lewis. Zach Wilson, hold on. Oh, Zach Wilson as quarterback, Joe Brady as the head coach, with Marvin Lewis or Wade Phillips as the defensive coordinator. Sign me up. I love Joe Brady. I really do. I would be all on board with bringing him in. I saw a rumor today that he's one of the 3 guys that we're looking at. I believe it was Brady, Arthur Smith, and Campbell, I think, were the 3 names that were being thrown around, but I don't know if there's, like, actual concrete sources attached to those. I would say I think all of us would be on board with that, so I won't go too much around the panel with that one. Matt, any sort of thoughts one way or the other on this?
I would love that. Sign me up for that in a heartbeat.
Green Bean, any thoughts on Brady with tag teamed with Marvin Lewis or Wade Phillips?
I don't like Brady. I just think he's I know why you guys like him. I've been hanging around the Jets a long time, man. And, like, he's got a year and a half as an offensive coordinator, and I don't get it. So that's where I feel like he's too raw to come here and handle this shit show that is the New York Jets. I just don't. So, but if Joe Douglas is in, then I'm wrong and he's in. Like, that's how but I think Matt Campbell's the dude. I would rather that. That to me is the guy who can come here. They're on different tiers to me. But I mean, we could do a lot worse. But that's not the way I wanna I wanna move forward. Hey, it's not Gase. That's what I thought with Bowles. Honestly, I thought Bowles was the worst, and then we got Gase. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I thought we couldn't go any further down. Guys, we have over 650 people across all 3 platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you want to get in on our question of the day, there's a link in the description. Should Sam be our quarterback for next year? Answer that question, and you'll be entered to win a shirt at the end of the show. All you have to do is answer the question. I'll raffle it off to some lucky person in the chat. Tony jumping in saying, I would go edge in free agency, Judon or Dupree, Tooney, and wide receiver. Give me Allen Robinson. Do you guys like another wide receiver? Cornerback is weak in free agency. Might want to take one in round 1 or 2. So yes, I agree with your take. Tooney would be my number 1 choice. I am throwing a bunch of silly money at him the first day of the tampering period. I don't care what it costs. If he's walking away from the Patriots, we will be the highest bidder. That's how I feel on him. Guy doesn't cause penalties. He's smart. He's healthy. Checks all the boxes. He's my guy. Wide receiver wise, as I'm going through everything, I really like Allen Robinson. I don't think we have a chance to get him. I think even maybe if we were the highest offer, we'd get him, but I think there's going to be other teams that are a little more competitive with us, and he'll go to the better team. In terms of other wide receivers, I'm not crazy. Well, so the edge rusher, Judon or Dupree. I'm not crazy about Judon. Dupree I like, but with the ACL injury, I'm not as crazy about him right now. Wide receiver-wise, I really like Kenny Golladay a lot. I think it depends who our head coach is. If we go Brian Daboll, I could really see what was I going to say? I could really see Curtis Samuel, because the way that Daboll handles his wide receivers with John Brown, Beasley, and Diggs, Curtis Samuel is kind of like him to me would be a very good number 4 wide receiver. Like if you could give him the Perriman contract of $6.5 million for next year, and you had Daboll come in. Side note, offensive coordinator that I should have brought up before, I have him in my mock draft, but I may wind up changing it, is Ken Dorsey, the quarterback coach for Josh Allen in Buffalo. I think he's really good. He worked with Cam the year that Cam won MVP down in Carolina, and he was there when Samuel was drafted. So if Dorsey were to come over as the OC, I could see Samuel coming in there. Cornerback, I agree. Cornerback's a weak market. The one guy I would look at is Ronald Darby, the cornerback from Washington. He was with Philadelphia originally, and I think Joe Douglas could snatch him up. That's who I would like. I wanted him last offseason when his draft stock, or when his free agent stock was real low. He had a really good year. I think he wound up finishing 7th in terms of all corners for Pro Football Focus. So he's a guy I really would like to take a look at. Green Bean, what do you think about the Judon, Dupree, Tooney, wide receiver, the free agent market?
Yeah, I think Joe Tooney should be the number 1 goal, and I think that he's going to be. So that's the thing that, one other reason why I like Joe Douglas. I think he's smart. I think that right after that, we're definitely going to look for a veteran wide receiver. In truth, I'm a little bit partial to Godwin, but I think if Golladay, Allen Robinson, or Godwin come here, I'm going to be just as happy no matter which one of those 3 names come. I don't know if we're going to get like the number 1 guard, the number 1 wide receiver, the best pass rusher. I don't know, but I don't like Bud Dupree all that much. I think he's fine, but I think he's going to be the next guy to leave the Steelers and be lesser of an impact where he goes than he was. I just see that on him. I would prefer Judon. But what about Ngakoue, man? Don't forget, he's still floating around out there. He didn't get an extension or anything. He's going to be wanting all this money and stuff, but all the money's dropping this year. These guys are going to have to take less, and guess who has money? Us. So I think we're in a good spot to do this year. I think Joe Douglas is smart, and he's going to know where where it should drop to in accordance with the new cap as far as their contract value. We might see some 1-year contracts because people are going to want to wait till the cap goes back up. I'm fine with that too. But I think my main get would be Joe Thuney and then a wide receiver, Godwin or Robinson. You know what I mean?
Matt, what do you think about the free agency class?
Yeah, I mean, I love Allen Robinson so much, but I think that if I had the choice between not overpaying, but paying premium for a guard or paying premium for a wide receiver, I'm paying either Joe Thuney or Sheriff from Washington. I would bring in one of those two guys and really get that offensive line going. And with the wide receiver group, I think you could sign a Corey Davis and get good value, or a Curtis Samuel and get good value. There's just a lot of guys who I think are going to be hitting the market. So for as much as I love Allen Robinson, and I would jump for joy if the Jets bring him in, I think my first focus is guard before wide receiver.
Yeah, I fall right in line with that. You brought up Corey Davis. He has been awesome this year. He has really kind of lit it on fire, and I'd be all for bringing him in, especially if you bring in like Arthur Smith. I think you can lure Corey Davis with him. That's probably where I see him going, wherever Smith winds up. Asylum Reaper says, Kellen Moore as OC from Dallas. Thoughts? How long has he been the OC in Dallas for? Let me just pull this up real quick.
2 years, I'm pretty sure.
So he is, so 2018 he was the quarterback coach. He's been the offensive coordinator 2019 and 2020. So is he saying OC from Dallas as our head coach? I don't know if I would love that. If that were the case, you could see a situation where Dak winds up coming. I think if wherever Kellen Moore winds up, if he's a head coach somewhere, I think Dak could follow him. Matt, what do you think about Kellen Moore? Any thoughts?
I like him as a play caller a lot. I don't know if he's ready to take that jump to the head coaching gig, but if for whatever reason they're not going to blow it up. They already pretty much said that McCarthy's going to be back, but I love Kellen Moore as a play caller. I think down the line maybe, but it might be a year early for him.
Mm-hmm. Green Bean, any thoughts on Kellen Moore?
Well, Kellen Moore wants to be a head coach. I saw, right? Didn't he just say that or something? Like he was saying, "I want to be a head coach." So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that much about him, if I'm being completely honest. Like it's hard to keep track of all these guys, But I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know. And let me just say that.
That's a fair argument. I think that's kind of where I fall. 2613 Mike is saying thoughts on trying Bless at strong safety. Bless has been a pretty decent tackler. He's been very underwhelming. I do not trust him to be more than probably a cornerback 4 at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if we moved on from him either. Next training camp or so. So thoughts of playing him at strong safety? I mean, maybe. I'd rather play Maye at strong safety and bring him back. I think we're going to franchise tag Maye. I think Maye should not sign with anyone until he knows what's going on, I think he should test the market. I don't think he should sign a contract with us before he tests the market, and I don't think we should let him test the market. And the franchise tag is where I see that coming in. Matt, what do you think about Bless at strong safety?
We can't play corner, so I mean, maybe he can play strong safety. I love him as a tackler, but he can't cover anybody, man. Maybe I don't see that as a long-term solution. I think you're gonna have. I really think Ashton Davis is starting at strong safety next year, and Marcus Maye playing free safety. I think that's what they end up doing.
Green Bean, what do you think about Bless going to strong safety?
I agree. I think what Matt just said, his final statement, is exactly what I think. I think Ashton Davis and Marcus Maye are going to be our safeties next year. I think that we are going to start bringing in cornerbacks, though, and this Bless Austin experiment he's going to start getting pushed down. If they want to try him at strong safety, I think it's a good way to maybe keep him. and give him another shot, because I don't think he's really a long-term starter at cornerback. He's one of those depth guys, but he has injury issues. So once he starts getting into the fourth cornerback, again, same thing as the wide receivers. These guys need to play specials, and he has a severe injury history, so he's going to limit himself. So if he can go to safety and actually become the third guy off the bench kind of a thing, the first guy off the bench, third safety, I think that might be a good idea for him. He's a good tackler, but I don't know. I don't know if the Jets are. I think that they're a little bit tired of his finger wagging after bullshit plays. I think that's not rubbing anybody the right way. It's not rubbing me right.
I liked Millette at safety the last game. I thought he had a pretty nice game. He had 3 passes defensed and a bunch of tackles. I think he's someone we could try at safety before Bless. Nose Kills. Thank you for the super chat. He says, top 3 positional coaches that deserve an extension, rehire from the Jets. Any that deserve the boot alongside Gase. Anyone on the offensive side. I would say the only one that I would possibly look at retaining would be Frank Bush. That would be the only one, and I think that's because the defense has played well. I think the Seattle game was a little bit more of an aberration, and sort of, trying to install a defense 1 week after firing Greg Williams is a little tough, but they've played well the last 2 weeks, even with, Cleveland without their wide receivers. So I would say the only, maybe Boyer at special teams, but I would say Frank Bush would be the only one I'm really looking to maybe keep on at best. Matt, any positional coaches you like to possibly hold on to?
Brant Boyer is really the only one I have interest in retaining. I think we're overlooking Frank Bush, or looking too much into the last couple of weeks with Frank Bush. I think this is pretty much the same defense that we saw. He's just not as crazy as Greg Williams. He's a little more conservative, but I let whatever head coach hire the DC. I'm not crying if we're losing Frank Bush or really even Brant Boyer for that matter, but I just think he's done a good job.
Green Bean, what do you think about the positional coaches? Anyone staying?
Well, I'm gonna refer to a comment in the chat from a man named, or maybe it's a woman, but it's Fat Gandalf. He said it very well, and this is right along my thinking. It's clean house. Again, like we were talking about with the people who want to say keep Sam, and we're always having some holdover and stuff. If the new coach comes in and says, no, I want Brant Boyer or I want Jim Bob Cooter, fine. In my opinion, get everybody out of here, Lysol the room, wipe down the windows, and you know what I mean? Sweep the floors and just start fresh. That's how I see it. Brant Boyer happens to be a pretty good special teams coach, but I don't think he's so good that he's like a priority, like we got to retain this guy. So I would feel really good if no one on our coaching or training staff was in the building ever again. I would, like, if they were all gone Monday morning, that would make me feel good, starting completely fresh. I would like that. I don't think anybody's so good that they're worth keeping unless they can't get anybody better, which I don't think that's the case.
I'd be cool with Hines Ward. I saw a few Hines Ward's comments in the chat. I could see wide receiver coach holding on to him if he wants to hang around. Sure, why not? Ibrima John, thank you for the super chat. He says, the Jets need Allen Robinson and Tooney. Trade the second pick to the Bengals, who's number 5, and a second this year and a second next year. Then get Wilson at 5. Trade 27 and a third to the 49ers for Kittle. Thoughts? I don't think Kittle's leaving the 49ers. That's a lot of motion. So I'm kind of on board with, I don't know which one of you guys said it, but I think it's probably a little far-fetched for the Jets to get multiple top guys. So like Allen Robinson and Tooney, probably going to have to go for just one of them. I would prefer Tooney in that instance, but I would be happy with either one of them. Trading the second back to the Bengals makes the most sense in terms of a trade down, I think. You prevent Sewell from going to a division rival. Maybe you take a little bit less. I would like the first-round pick next year, but maybe the 2 seconds is not the worst way to go either. You kind of help out a little bit more this year, and you have the extra second next year to trade up if you have to. Wilson at 5, I'm okay with. I just don't like the idea of trading back and trying to get a quarterback like Matt said. I think you got to take him at 2. Trading the 27th pick and a third to the 49ers for Kittle, I don't think you do it. I would rather go with, like Green Bean said, take a tight end that you like in the draft, keep him on a cheap contract, and just kind of roll with that. Green Bean, any thoughts on the comment?
Yeah, first of all, I think Kittle's too important to the organization. They love him over there. He's more number one. He's like one of the best tight ends in the league. But number two, he's part of the fire on that team. Like they love him over there. So I don't think they're willing to get rid of him. But just like you said, when we're starting to build from where we are, you don't want to start bringing in ancillary positions at $15 million a year or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You want to be able to build with those, with the draft. Like, so here's a little homework for everybody. In the event, like you saw it, Albert Breer said that Matt Campbell is our number one coaching priority. I've heard that elsewhere too. I think it's probably realistic to think that he's going to go that way. If Matt Campbell comes on, there's a tight end that's playing at Iowa right now. His name is Charlie Kolar. Go look at Charlie Kolar. You're going to get him in the 3rd to 6th round. Like it's right now, it's somewhere in there. And the guy is going to be Zach Ertz. So there's a lot of options to bring in your own tight ends. If you're going to go for the gold, go for Pat Freiermuth or even Brevin Jordan or something like that, because Kyle Pitts is going to be gone. But I would much rather do that stuff, even if Kittle was available, which I don't think he is.
I think Joe Douglas could play some 4D chess and trade a conditional 2022 pick to the Eagles, who I think are going to cut Zach Ertz to save salary cap space and bring him in. It would be a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. So I think it's a little bit of an overpay at this point, given the sort of trajectory he's been on the last few years. But he's an interesting option that I think the Jets could possibly bring in. Matt, what are your thoughts on all these trades and whatnot?
I don't think there's a guarantee that Wilson's going to be there at 5. I think that a team could either move up to get him or Atlanta's picking 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta could potentially take him at 4. And I'm not looking to trade multiple draft picks for George Kittle. He's a great player. There's no denying that, but I just don't think that's a smart way to build this roster.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that is fair. Let me see. Did I have anything else going on in here? Let's talk a little bit about some of the other topics. We haven't even really touched on this. Gase is getting fired. There were reports today that Gase is getting fired. Before we jump into the Adam Gase getting fired, if you guys are happy that Adam Gase is getting fired, drop a like on this. We only have somewhere in the roundabouts of 100 likes. I can't see it. It's got like little decimal points next to it, so I can't tell what it is. But we have over 600 people in the YouTube chat. There's no reason we can't get this way over 200. So drop a like there. And if you want your shot to win either a Just End the Suffering shirt, or I have some division rival shirts that I just made that are on the jetstalk.com website. So if you want to check those out, you can do that. I'm going to give away a shirt at the end of this stream. All you have to do is answer the question of the day. It's down in the description below. Should Sam be our quarterback for next year? That's going to be the question. We'll raffle that off in about 20 minutes or so. So, guys, Adam Gase is getting fired. We should pop the champagne. I see Mo in the chat popping champagne. I like it. Is this? I don't think this is a shock for anyone. I'm actually. I don't want to say I'm surprised it took this long to get to this sort of topic, but I think everyone sort of knew this was coming down the pipeline. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Gase getting fired? Anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, I mean, in other news, the sun came up today. Like these are things that we knew this was coming. It is good though to finally hear that like be put out there, and like everyone knew it was coming. There were some people who were a little bit nervous, and what if they end the season strong and they bring him back? This is the worst head coach in football. He pretty much single-handedly ruined Sam Darnold. He was going. It's time. And it's going to be a fun off season of A, who the hell do the Jets hire? And B, what do they do at the quarterback position? So those are two pretty damn important things to a football team. So it's going to be a ton of content in the next few weeks and months.
Yeah. Green Bean, any thoughts about the whole, Gase getting fired?
I just want to say I love Fat Gandalf, and Adam Gase is the worst in the world. And it's just like Matt said, it's not like, I mean, most of us knew that this was coming, but you can't. We're damaged, right? Like, we've been dealing with such pain and disappointment. So there's that little tiny piece of you that thinks they better not keep this fucking guy, you know? So the fact that now there are reports coming from other staff saying Chris Johnson is spreading the word for the organization, so everybody now knows it's not just one source or, here or there. The Jets organization is now aware this is Gase's last game. So it's almost official. You can't help but feel relief. You can't help but feel good. But I'll tell you the silver lining of this. That's obviously great news. Hopefully they lasso Dowell Loggins to Gase, so when they throw him out, Dowell just by default has to go the second he goes. I think that's good. But the real good news, guys, is that the other intention, and this we have from legitimate sources, that the good news here is that once Gase is gone, this is now Joe Douglas's team. I mentioned it earlier, but you don't realize the magnitude of that. The hierarchy of both guys reporting to the owner is gone. The owner is sitting in there and tinkering with everything. It's gone. They'll be in the room, but Joe Douglas, as of Monday afternoon or Monday evening, will be the king of New York Jets land, and that is the to come out of this season. If we had to deal with all this pain and loss and being upset, it's worth to have a guy like Joe of a not and be the actual leader of our team. We have a leader, guys. We haven't had one in a decade.
Charlie Lambert in the chat saying, Ryan, what's the website for the Just End the Suffering shirts? That would be jetstalk.com. Jetstalk.com is where you can get a Just End the Suffering shirt, Charlie. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. The biggest news we got from the little article from U Stadium, 1, Gase getting fired. That's really nice. 2, Douglas is in charge of the decision. 3, I really like that we're not going to tie someone down to Sam Darnold just because we had a big investment into him. We're okay with just sort of hitting the reset button. So lots of good news we got over the last 2 or 3 days or so. And I'm just pumped I can root for the Jets to actually win a game this season. I'm like, I've been so torn this entire year on just like rooting for us to lose. So I'm happy that we can root for a win. And I don't have to feel guilty about like having a Rex Ryan situation where we win the 3rd game and then all of a sudden, oh, Gase is turning it around. Here he comes. We're running it back for 2021. Oh, geez, that would drive me up a wall. Jordan dropping in with a super chat saying Tony Pollard from Dallas is a nice trade option. I don't want to trade for a running back. That's I don't care what it costs. I wouldn't do it. I'd rather draft one. Kenny Gainwell is someone I really, really like out of Memphis. He didn't play this year. He had 4 family members die of COVID. But he is someone I really like a lot, and I would prefer to draft him with whatever pick you would have given up for Tony Pollard. Matt, thoughts on Tony Pollard?
If I can get him for like a 6th, maybe. I don't know if I'm giving up anything earlier than that. They have 2 6th-round picks in this year's draft, right? Or something like that.
I think they have 1. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick.
I'll do it
we have a conditional 7th possibly, depending on what the compensation was for friggin' Parry Nickerson. We traded him to Seattle for a conditional 7th. I don't think he probably has to get re-signed or something like that for that to actually work out. And I don't know if he's actually still there. So the Jets have 1 6th-round pick. It's just their original one. We do have 2 5ths. We have right now we're picking 130, which that's going to change once they add compensation picks. But we have the 2nd pick in the 5th round, and we have the Giants pick in the 5th round, which winds up to be like the 10th pick or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my preferred option, but if you tell me I can get him for a 6th or a 7th, then okay, sure.
Green Bean, what do you think about Tony Pollard?
No. I agree with you. I think it's like number one, the running back class is actually pretty good. I happen to like quite a few of them. I don't want to lose our assets. Joe Douglas worked his ass off, man, to get all these assets that we have. The next few years, we have more picks than the NFL gives us. Like the next few years, all the way to 2023, he already got one pick, I think it was. So I don't think you just give those away for nothing. Especially when there are options that don't cost that waiting for you. So I would say I know what you're getting at. You know what I mean? I get it. I get the thought, but I personally wouldn't want to see that.
I see a comment in the chat from Chaz Basketball 1235. He says, Ryan, do you want to hire Josh McDiddle? Josh McDaniels is what he's referring to. No, I do not. I do not want to touch Josh McDaniels. At one time, I would have loved to have him, but after what he pulled with the Indianapolis Colts and hiring all those coaches, having them move to Indianapolis and then backing out, I want no piece of that guy. I think he's a piece of shit and should stay in New England, and I hope he rots.
He is. And don't forget what he did in Denver, man. He went over to Denver. They had Cutler and Brandon Marshall. The first thing he did was dismantle everything positive on that team for no reason.
For Tim Tebow. He sent Peyton Hillis over to the Browns, and he wound up getting on the Madden cover. Hillis.
Yeah. Dude, it was the worst. I mean, he brought over Castle from the Patriots instead of Cutler, and it was just like he made work where there was no work needed. He destroyed their team, and it took them years to recover. It took them Peyton Manning to recover from Josh McDaniels. He's a complete asshole. I would never want him anywhere near the Jets.
Matt, any thoughts on McDaniels?
Hate him.
Scumbag. Don't like him.
Perfect. We'll end it at that. Christopher Phillips, thank you for the super chat. He says, it's not enough for him to get fired. Adam Gase needs a New York-style beatdown before he leaves town. Wouldn't it be great if he, I'm trying to think, what would be the most, New York thing that could happen to him that doesn't really cause him, severe harm, but, would just kind of be a real shot in the nuts? Like, maybe he gets stuck at a red light and there's someone trying to, get money from him. That's pretty awkward when that happens. Or, maybe burns his mouth on a hot cup of coffee. just says something he's like, are you looking at me? And he goes cross-eyed, and two guys wind up punching him because he's giving him a goofy look two different directions. Yeah, no, I really wanted Adam Gase to go 0-16. I think he has earned that terrible record, and for him to not get it is a little frustrating for me. Matt, any thoughts on what we could possibly do? Or Green Bean, you go for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just real quick. There's a comment in the chat from Max Mallow. It says, Game of Thrones style, he has to walk down Madison Avenue with everyone screaming shame.
Shame. Shame. He's getting poo flung on him from the top, just oh God, that would be terrible. He's got to be naked too, and it's cold out there, so it's not going to be flattering.
That's right.
Matt, any thoughts on what we could do for Gase? One last hurrah.
I think we're gonna go old school, early America style, and do a tar and feathering. I think that would be real nice.
Oh yeah. God, we should just dump him in the Hudson, give him some cinder block, shoes, and just let him jump off.
Right. This fucking guy, he's so gross.
I'm just scrolling through the comments.
Just one
if you guys
good
see anything,
punch straight to the chops.
Oh God, that would be great. If we could line up Sam Ficken, if we have to kick him out of town and Sam Ficken could just line up and hit Gase square between the nads as his parting gift to us, would be fantastic. Or maybe Braden Mann. He would be the man, the myth, the legend if he could punt Adam Gase.
Yes.
Right. One unimpeded kick to the nuts. You know what I mean? Just whoop. And then go, get out of here. I'd love it, man. That guy's so gross.
Let's touch on the whole Marcus Maye thing. GMD Vinny says, Marcus Maye, do you think we are able to ink him for a long-term deal? Do you think it's going to have to be the franchise tag, or do you think Ashton Davis, along with someone else, is going to be our safety for next year? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you.
Well, I like what you were saying, Ryan. I mean, he's the kind of guy I'd like to see locked up. But this is an interesting year with the salary cap dropping so much. I think that he would actually be on board to sign the franchise tag. And I think the Jets haven't used it in a while and all that. So I think a lot of players are going to want to take a one-year deal because they're going to have to take less this year. So I think that they'd be on board to take a 1-year deal and see if the salary cap bounces back next year, and then they can go for their long-term contract. Either way, I think Marcus Maye is a part of the plan. I think he's clearly proven himself. The only concern I have is if he wants to be here. He might be done. You know, I mean, he might be like, "No, I'm going to go to the 49ers. I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm going to go to the Steelers." You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
Tampa and Miami are the two that I think he would go to. I think playing for Flores, a former secondary coach in his home state of Florida, in Miami would be fun. I think him trying to win a ring in Tampa could also be an option there, but I would like to keep him. Matt, what do you think about Marcus Maye?
I really think he resigns. I think they figure out a long-term deal with him. I think he's an important part to this team. And I think it would be a mistake if they let him walk. I think they find a way to get him to extend here.
Yeah, that's really what I'm.
Right, especially
I'm
after Robbie.
Oh yeah, well that's just it. You let someone who was a home drafted guy walk. It's just such a shot. Like if you could go back and you could say, hey, we're gonna take Robbie instead of Perriman. Like I know we were all on board with it. We all thought he should have gotten the deal. We thought he should have gotten more money than what he got from Carolina. So I don't know if Douglas makes that mistake again. I think he'll try to retain both Maye and Poole. I think in my most recent mock, I had us cutting Anderson. Who was it? It was Anderson, Josh Doxson, who opted out this year. We can save his whole, $1 million contract or whatever. And then who was the other player? There was one more player that I was going to have us move on from, and I can't think of who it was off the top of my head now. Yeah, Marcus Maye is not one of the ones we want to move on from. It's definitely someone we want to hold on to. Sir Luke, I'll throw your comment question up as soon as it loads on my screen, but we'll start talking about it now. Oh wait, hold on. I think it just clicked. All right. Bam. Sir Luke says, "Who dat? Saints should trade for Darnold. Sean can make him a future Hall of Famer." This is what I want to happen, and you guys talk to me and tell me if I'm crazy or what we should do. So let's say we get Thuney, whatever. We roll into the second pick. We don't trade down. We decide to take our quarterback of the future. We're taking Justin Fields at 2. We still kind of want a right tackle. I would trade Sam Darnold to the Saints for Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle. He's going into his 5th year. He's due $11 million. The Saints are $98 million over the salary cap. I would absolutely take him on. It's going to be a cap savings for them while also giving them a potential future quarterback at the expense of their right tackle. I think that's a move I would make. Matt, what do you think about trading Sam Darnold to the Saints?
I think that would be a good landing spot for him, and I'm rooting for Sam Darnold to figure it out. Whether it's, of course, I'm rooting for him to figure it out here if they stick with him, or if they move him somewhere to the NFC, then absolutely. I think that's a great spot for him. The San Francisco 49ers would be a great spot for him. Hall of Fame quarterback might be a stretch, but I think he could be maybe like a middle of the pack kind of quarterback for them.
Green Bean, what do you think about Darnold to the Saints?
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be one of those landing spots that would be good. And you guys know, I've said this a million times, I don't root for Jets players once they leave the Jets. I really don't. They can eat shit as far as I'm concerned. They're now the enemy. But I will say Sam Darnold is the first player in the longest time that has a chance to bring one of my heartstrings with him. I really think that it was just a very unfortunate circumstance with him here, and he's 23 years old. I think that going to the Saints with Sean Payton and Drew Brees in front of him would be fantastic, and I think that in a year or two in that situation, learning, I think that he would be very good. I don't know what kind of trade compensation we're going to get to him. At least we're seeing some positive games from him. They're not complete train wrecks, so that might help. I hope it does, and I'd love to see a second or something. I don't know about player for player. I don't know. But anyway, I think that'd be a good spot for him.
The other player you could look at, and I see someone brought it up in the chat, is Marshawn Lattimore. He's having a down season this year. He's the cornerback from the Saints. If the Jets were to bring in Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, I could see a kind of swing like that. The Jets have made some trades with the Saints in the past. You have Teddy Teddy Bridgewater most recently. I mean, we have Demario Davis, who we didn't trade there, but he's over there. Jonathan Vilma was traded at one point. I think there's some open lines of communications there, and looking at teams that are cap strapped, like the Eagles, like the Saints, would be very wise of the Jets to do, because I think that's where you can get some sneaky value on guys like, I like Vinny Curry from the Eagles. He's old. He's like 33, 34 years old, but he has been very productive as a pass rusher. Not so great in the run game, but we're good against the run already. So if we could just have him as an edge rusher, I'm all on board for taking an older guy to also draft a guy and kind of sort of help him sort of groom up there. All right, so we are towards the end of our show at this point. So I want to raffle off a shirt. Let's see how many people we had in on the poll question. And guys in the chat, I will give you give me a number somewhere between 15 and 35. We'll go somewhere between 15 and 35. And let's see who's going to wind up getting a shirt tonight. So just so you guys know, should Sam be our quarterback for next year, we had 43 votes. 65% of our viewers are saying yes, Sam Darnold should be our quarterback for next year. 35% say no. So it's very, very interesting. They are definitely against the sort of the grain that we were sort of looking at there. Let's see.
Yeah, they're all crazy.
Sir Luke says Vilma helped us. Davis too. Now a quarterback. LOL. In terms of sending trades away. All right, so we got a bunch of comments in the side. Someone said 12. That's not between 15 and 35, Rich. Listens and follows directions. You do not. Bill Cower says 69. That's pretty funny, but that's also not between 50 and okay.
I see what he's doing.
Let's go. We'll go with Vinny's answer. We'll go. Vinny says 21. 21's a nice number here. So let me go through here. Come on, click on that. All right. So the winner of our shirt for tonight is going to be 1, 2, 3. Sorry, doing math in my head. It's going to be Cruel, Kruel, Cruel. You are going to be the winner of our shirt giveaway. So reach out to me on the Flick chat, and I will get your information, and I'll send you a shirt of your choosing. It could either be a Just on the Suffering shirt, or if you want one of the Division Rival shirts, I can get you one of those as well. For any of you guys that want one of the shirts, jetstalk.com is going to be where you can get one of those. But that is the end of our panel. So let's go around. Let's do some closing thoughts. Green Bean, any last words for the panel? And tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, well, number one, let me just say this was a good one for me. I don't know. I'm feeling light. It's been heavy these past months. A lot of stress, a lot of sadness and everything. I'm feeling like there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I appreciate everybody being here. I love that you have 600 guys in here for most of the time. That's just super killer. I will say this. A lot of you know, or a lot of you clearly don't know, but I have a new YouTube channel. I would really love if you guys all just went over there today and just give me a sub. That's Green Bean, one word, Jets Fan, another word. Green Bean Jets Fan YouTube. Please give me a sub. That's where my podcast is, and a lot of other content. The Monday night 10 o'clock mock is crushing it. So I would really love and appreciate some sub love.
Green Bean's new channel is linked down below, along with the Jet Nation one. You can also see him pop up in the live chat on the side. So make sure you go and give him a follow. Matt, any last words for the panel?
Yeah, absolutely. New podcast episode of Just Jets drops tomorrow. A lot of Adam Gase talk, a lot of voicemails. It's gonna be a fun one, but absolutely enjoy hopping on with you guys each and every week and talking through our storylines of the week. Look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, guys, if you want to hang out with us, January 1st, that's this Friday coming up, we're going to be live streaming the Clemson-Ohio State playoff game. We're going to be keeping a real close eye on Justin Fields, watching Trevor Lawrence, going to try not to cry a little bit on the inside or on the outside. But if you guys want to hang out with us, definitely tune in for that. But that's it. That's been our panel. It's been fun hanging out with you guys. I love hanging out with Matt and Green Bean and everyone that, hits us up in the chat. It's been been a blast tonight. But guys, my name's Ryan. I've been your pilot. This is Jets Talk, signing off. JETS!